development goal. 27, 24, 21. Aire! Here we are. That's it. Welcome to our talk. Today I'm surrounded with two dear friends, Emilia.
Nice to meet you.
Leszkowicz, neuroscience. My friend Chris Bain from Ireland.
Hello, folks.
Physics. And I have the responsibility to share some ideas with them. We want to work this project for 17 months. So we will be sharing books, ideas, and Emilia will in charge in what is going on inside of our brain as a neuroscience, how we translate the external world into knowledge. And Chris, as a physicist, he has some ears in the planet. He listens what is going on. So, but we have so many problems. We have the UN development goal. We want to achieve something, so many things, like running, starvation from the planet, make sure everybody eating and all that kind of problem. I don't think we want to achieve any of these kind of things. But we, as an artist, we just bring questions and we need to re-question. And the question is on my table is, well, if you are conscious about things, conscious is to be aware of what is going on around, why we are so unconscious of what is going on in the planet. So perhaps from the physics point of view, physics like real things, from neuroscience point of view, to try to understand what is going on, what is consciousness and is unconsciousness in this kind of social political situation. Corruption is in the middle, in a high level. We are unconscious. So how we can translate this in an interesting scenario, sculpture, olfactory, acoustic media to get into this kind of question. Vision is not good. Ocular-centric thing is quite running slow. So why not thinking from another perspective? Emilia,
what can I say about that? Yeah.
What you can say about that? We're thinking how we can re-question.
Yeah, I'm just thinking what is going on in the brain and the way the brain works. So because the brain tends to simplify information, the brain tends to learn and then use this learning to make quick decisions. The brain learns to save energy, which we can see when we, for example, think about some activities which we do on everyday basis. Somebody plays an instrument without thinking about playing the instrument. Somebody drives a car. They had to learn, but at some point they stop learning and they do it automatically so that they can do something else. And I'm thinking that maybe the same goes on the behavioral level. And here I think about the consciousness that we learn to behave in certain ways. We got familiar with certain opinions. We got familiar with certain issues, and we sort of feel we are in this comfort zone. And we don't make efforts to go beyond.
You're right, yeah.
We even don't make effort to ask ourselves, am I really right? We tend, for example, when we have discussions about an issue, we tend to defend our own point of view, and we are trying to convince an opponent that he is wrong, instead of looking for a common ground. So we don't have open mind in that sense. We are not conscious. We sort of lost the curiosity of a little child.
You're absolutely right. And you pointed something before I drop the ball to my friend Chris. I know you wanted to say something very quickly, but before we move, and that's the reason I say, I think we have conscience because we are aware we are alive, but I think the conscience is ill, is failing, doesn't work. What do you think about, Chris, from your physical point of view?
Well, from a physical point of view, I think what's happened what is happening is that we have confused knowledge with consciousness in some sense in the physical sciences. So in the physical sciences, you talk about, we have sensors that can listen to what's going on in the planet to understand these things that help us, that may ultimately help us address some of those UN goals that you mentioned, Oswaldo. But so we're building up great bodies of knowledge, things we know. We make other sensors that are hearing outside the range of our ears, seeing outside the range of our eyes, and we get an understanding or knowledge about all of these different things. But what we haven't reached is that behavioral level that Emilia talked about, the driving the car level, where that knowledge becomes a part of who we are, that we actually go to the next level. So the knowledge is outside us. We're looking out at the knowledge space, but we're not inside in that knowledge space. So we know a lot of stuff, but we don't really understand it. We haven't internalized that information. And I think that this is the issue. This is the block for us. We wonder why we're doing things with planet Earth when we know that they're not the right things to do. But as Emilia says, we haven't got to that next level with this problem. And it could well be just a timing issue. We just haven't had the time yet to fully internalize this. And we don't learn how to drive a car overnight. We don't change our behaviors overnight. People takes time to undo bad habits, to learn new good habits. Maybe it's a timing issue, but I think that this is part of it. Knowledge and consciousness are different things.
No, totally agree. But we always look down animals. And animals that have better behaviors than us. I think we always look down animals that have conscience. Perhaps they behave with more consciousness than us in many aspects. So Emilia is an expert in animals as well and how the brain works. But I would like as well to bring the art in this kind of sense, because in the art we move in this sense of comfort. We move in this way, I know that. Art question to most people hate it because you don't want to use the brain. As you say, we like the easy things. The brain always, some scientists will call it the brain like the best guess. Always the brain is guessing the easy one, and always another, I do not remember exactly what was Nietzsche came to say, you learning when you forget. So soon you learning something, you forget things, so you do automatically. But you say, Chris, we haven't internalized responsibility. But I think we need to kick ass to only laziness anyway, in that sense, that we need to be more responsible if we wanted to smell clean tomorrow. It's so much corruption and smell rotten all over, So we need to see the art from a smell point of view. So if we really can handle it, we need to get out of this kind of comfort anyway.
We need some sort of self-reflection, I would say, because I have an impression that we have goals. We sort of feel probably we are in peace of mind once we have goals, like those 17 sustainable development goals developed by United Nations. Yes. So they were, we have them developed, we have them on paper, they have been published, and we sort of feel that we've done. That the things is done, yes?
Yes,
the problem is solved.
Yes, exactly. But we are miles away of the very thing.
Yeah, and I feel that we've lost this self-reflection. People do not think much about motives. Why we doing this? Why we doing that? They sort of lost the touch with nature. They stopped meditating. They are rushing. They are trying to aim goals. Achieve something, and the consciousness is. They are conscious about one thing which they have to aim, but everything which is around is somehow lost.
Well, it's also we need to redefine the meaning of word consciousness, because consciousness is to be aware of what is around you. So if you have selfishness, animal, like that can say, we are selfing self. So we're thinking only in our own benefits, in our own well-being. Yeah, we know that, but how are we going to do that, Chris? And from the art point of view, what is the responsibility of the art in some way to present this kind of thing? Like now we are the priests, we need to preach in people. No, we cannot preach anyone. Anyway,
this to me is the really interesting point. It's that nexus of collaboration. So the way I look at it is one can think of it as a set of filters. So in the physical world, we have filters that we can't see things unless we bring scientific instrumentation and scientific know-how. That brings us the knowledge I talked about earlier. And so that kind of removes those physical filters. But we also have, and it's something that Emilia touched on there, we also have social filters, that we have particular ways of doing things. And, you see in society, these social filters can change. Look at the world in 1950 versus the world today. Look what happened in the 1960s, how the social filters opened out and transitioned. These things can happen, but for me, I guess I wonder, Oswaldo, what is the role of art in art-science collaboration in maybe changing these, what we might call social filters, these constraints that we have in terms of the way we view things? But, if one agrees that is part of the problem.
Yeah, well, I love the word you use, filters. You can imagine the filter of cynicism, the cynic. How cynic is the people? That filter is massive. What about the filter of corruption? This filter is massive from the politicians running all these countries anyways. This is the big mafia for corruption anyway, from the banking point of view, churches. I don't think the artist in some way can solve that kind of thing, or scientists can solve that kind of thing, neuroscientists can
I can ask questions.
We can ask questions. We can be part of an choir, they really echo and try to it's the word is conscience people in the way, because it had to be by individuals, changing between individuals to make this kind of thing happen. Because corruption and cynic is from the day of Diogenes. From the Greek philosopher, we're talking about cynicism. Cynic, kinetic. How many books of cynic you want? How many politicians you want to be cynic? From Blair, Bush, mention all of them. How many corruption cases you want, from any kind of country. So that kind of thing happening. I think corruption is the kind of cancer of humanity. It's embedded. It's very easy to people get corrupted. So art and physics, I don't think we can actually change that kind of thing. So it has to have what you mentioned, this kind of inside experience and transformation. It has to come from inside. It's just not about generation, because it's too old. You're talking about 2,000 years of people be corrupted or be cynic. So,
yeah, I know it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, the question is, can this collaboration, art science collaboration, can it help us to internalize the knowledge that the science is building, but it's not internalized. It's still sitting out at the edge as a knowledge field. It's not becoming part of our DNA and who we are fast enough for us to make the changes we need.
Yeah, the thing is this is a question with it's not one answer. It's a question of several questions that need several answers. That's the reason we need to have a collaboration in the way of the work, and also using more than one sense, not be ocular centristic in the way vision only. We have to thinking in this kind of how perhaps olfactorically, how perhaps acoustic. We have to use all the alternatives to make questions that create another question from internal point of view. We cannot doctrinate people. We cannot tell it to the people what to do, because people don't like that. They need to take it from inside.
Of course.
And learning and forget, as we said. So this like bicycles or swimming, they don't need to think they're swimming already. So they need to internalize that knowledge of consciousness properly, of what we do, how we behave, and how we don't accept the corruption, how we can fight with these kind of things and be more caring of the others,
And can I add something? You
No.
just but I do it anyway.
I got the wrong partner. I read the book and she explained me. And I said, Chris, I'm suffering with the neuroscience. And I said, I read that book, and I said, no, espera, I tell you how that. So I read the book and she said, okay, come on, carry on.
Because you touched the subject of using different senses.
Yes.
And it reminded me of an animal, what happens in the animal kingdom. So we know that animals have three basic drives, three basic behaviors, models of behavior, and there is a third one. So we often call that there are three basic plus one. And the basic is feeding. So an animal has to be fed, mating, and feeding, mating, and wait a sec, I wrote it down so that I don't forget. Mating, feeding.
And Instagram. The people do it now.
And protecting itself.
Yeah.
So, and then there is the fourth one. So an animal can be fed, safe, and has just after mating, so sexual desires are fulfilled, but nonetheless, this animal will explore.
Oh, yeah.
And when they explore, they use all available senses. And this is very interesting observation.
Super.
That animal can be satisfied, fed, sexually satisfied, safe. Nonetheless, the animal will...
Like an artist.
Yes, but animal will go... So it reminds me of this big rat we saw, rat-like animal we saw today being on a lead.
Yes, exactly.
So is this what differentiates artists and scientists, Oswaldo? So that's an artist satisfied. So the scientist will sit there intellectualizing, about some detail of technical detail. Maybe that's the extra bit that we're wasting our time doing stuff like
the explorer.
Yeah, but consciousness is a little bit touches this exploration, yes, because you explore, you probably need to be open to exploration to be recipient of the new information.
Absolutely. See, well, you use the word curiosity anyway. It's just like mind. The curiosity was just make us mind exciting and be the animal that we are. It's always this sense of curiosity to know more about things, testing, make mistakes and stuff like that. Want to open up. Yeah. Well, the idea is just to walk these 17 months together, and it's like a book. Each one will write a chapter, and after we put together in a space and we see how reading the same books, sharing some ideas, and play with the idea of consciousness to see what kind of note we can play in terms of touch, kind of part of the brain, and perhaps people can actually drop on a seat in this kind of way of rethinking in a question of such an old question like consciousness. We don't go to, if you ask on a physicist to say something, if you are a philosopher, you would say something else. If you go to the church and you ask it, don't ask the people. So you will say another thing. But consciousness, that's the business for others. So we can think it, we can rethink it, what is consciousness, to be aware of what is in us around now when people talking about too much about the planet. So from an animal point of view, now we're working with Emilia. She's an expert on ethology and animal behavior. So we don't like to tell it to the humans how to act, but we know the answer. They say, I know. But perhaps through animals, it's a good way to thinking, because always we think is, for an animal, but we can reflect ourselves in that way. And yes, and with the spirit of Chris in the acoustic world as well, volcanologists, listen the wave of the sea. Which project you working at the moment, Chris?
I'm working on both of those in parallel. Plus thinking about the ideas that we're talking about. Even this idea of animals versus humans is a bit of a gray area. Maybe we've put ourselves too high on the apex, and this is the issue. We're looking at our human-centric view of the world is causing a lot of problems. And we've got animals that are, just because we're intellectually maybe able to figure things out a little bit quicker, it doesn't mean that animals figure things out too. So I think that this is, for me, this is a big issue. This place we put ourselves on in this apex. The structure, in my view, is not flat enough. And if it was, we wouldn't be viewing us and the rest of the world as separate entities. We would be much more integrated in the world, I think, if we didn't have such a human-centric view of the world. But I don't. So I don't know, Oswaldo, if we have any questions from the audience. I'm not sure if they've.
No. For the moment, they are already entertaining, listening us.
Okay, they're listening to us. Okay.
Yeah, talking about that, for example, the philosopher Hume says the person believes animals, they are not intelligent, it's not worthy to speak with them. So philosophers have been agree with the intelligence of the animal. Voltaire was saying, look at birds, they can copy, I can correct themselves for the song they're learning. Look at the dog, you teach it there in 6 hours, and what happened in this 6 hours when you started now in the end. So obviously it's intelligent, obviously it's for a construct, there's a lot of things to learning from that.
Yeah.
When we study the brain of rats.
Yeah, not only.
Not only that.
No, because we do study the brains of humans. And then there is another interesting question. We were discussing this before. What is consciousness? Because, for example, we can have a human being in a vegetative state, and the communication with this person using words, for example, is non-existent. We don't see any signs of understanding and any reaction from this person, but yet we may see that the brain of this person, using appropriate tools, that the brain reacts to the stimuli which we present. And then there is a question, and this is the most interesting question, is this brain working separately of the consciousness? In a way, is this person aware of a signal which he or she receives, or is he not, and only the brain is aware? Because this person will be aware if the signal is interpreted. But we may evoke a signal if the signal does not reach frontal part of the brain, the signal will not be interpreted.
Totally, yeah.
So this is also interesting, that we may be sort of flooded with different signals. But if the signals do not reach proper part of the brain and they are not interpreted, then all the signals are in vain.
Exactly, yeah. So that is the complexity of this black box we have. Anyway, the black box we have is like a galactic full of neurons connected. That's the reason another neuroscientist say, yeah, we are the best guess. We guessing.
Yeah.
We were talking as well how this exercise, when we have some text and missing some letter, and the brain very quickly fill the space and give it the answer. So it's this kind of attitude of I know, they have this illusion. Good work always create a question and complex question. So brain really don't like it to get engaged in that kind of field. But
unless it is a brain of an artist.
And a neuroscientist.
Because there are studies on artist brain, how artist brain works. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so your brains are
hyperactive.
Yeah, I mean, the brain of a musician will be maybe hyperactive within the temporal lobes, when the brains of a visual artist, maybe painter, may be more active at the back with the
visual cortex.
Yeah, the occipital lobe at the back of the brain, where the visual signal.
What about the olfactory one? Would be the hippocampus.
Yeah, also hippocampus, yes, and amygdala.
Amygdala as well.
Yeah.
Chris, any kind of experience where you smell in SBEL in physics in your department, because we're exploring here with Emilia to bring some kind of SBEL. We don't use the word pheromone. I kind of think it's out of fashion in the 50s, yes or no?
Yes.
So, like I said, we want to create some molecules to stimulate consciousness or responsibility. So, we need to
rinse the brain.
Rinse the brain. Yeah, we were thinking some molecules can rinse the brain and recharge the ideas of God.
Or maybe Chris can suggest some waves.
Yeah, so not so familiar with smell, but one of the things that I think is interesting is that, you know, the different senses and how they interact with each other. So like we would often take sound waves of very low frequency sound waves that we can't hear, and we would plot them on a graph. And we're there looking at them on a graph like this until somebody maybe from the arts taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, why don't you speed it up and listen to it, you know, because you already have all the machinery for doing that. But then I'm questioning whether we get a different, even if this information content is the same and we're transforming it from visual to audio, do we process it in a different way, even though the information content is the same if we take it in here versus if we take it in here? But so you're adding to the complexity of that by wanting to put something in here as well. So, but you know, it's all, we have 1.5 years to work on it. Maybe
exactly.
That's what we're trying.
We want to send it to different, I call it, we send it to different libraries on the brain.
Exactly.
One goes to the hippocampus, another go to thalamus, another go to the other parts, and after we checking
different lobes.
With different lobes, we checking the brain. Maybe we can rinse the brain. And now we have 1 minute to go. I don't know what to do. In 3 seconds, you want to say goodbye, Chris?
Yeah, well, I hope people enjoy the conversation and to keep an eye on us. And the question for me is, you know, how do we get some of the things that we've been talking about? How do we get some of the knowledge, some of the things we know embedded in our consciousness, in our intuition, so that we can make the changes that we need to make from an ecological point of view over the next very short time. So thank you.
We added somewhere in a natural way.
In a natural way, of course.
I just hope that we will have a great time creating something which may influence consciousness of at least few people.
I feel in a great company. Looking forward to having a show with you guys and put something together. I don't know what the hell going to be the result, but we do our best. Conscience for what we're doing. And what second? We can
say goodbye.
Sing a song. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you.
Lovely to